Mic check and screen share check, please. All right, good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital, nightly strategy podcast for August 2nd, 2022. I'll jump right into the market health check. Having a little rollover here at the top of the 30-day range at the fair value, slightly above fair value here. This was at the same peak of the dragon we saw over here. Fair value has rolled here. We're actually on the north side of fair value for the first time in a long time. Slightly larger range than yesterday, with a weak close in that daily range. So a little cautionary tale here. Now we do have the RL10 is still in the summer, and it is just peaking. It has not rolled over yet, so there's still a gap between it and the baby dragon. So that's still in good shape, although the short-term momentum has now tipped over and sloping down. So the first warning shot today. This is 2 days in a row we could not really break out and go, and instead we got more weakness today than we did yesterday, and that's why that momentum is down. Still, we are outside of the river. We are right at the edge of the floodplain here at Z2. We're starting to see an expansion of volatility as the trend up begins to stretch. PSAR is still a good ways away at the 5-day low. Natural support levels at the skin of the dragon spine, top skin, 1-day low. So there's lots of support levels to contend with, and there's your Bollinger Band mean at 389. So still cautiously optimistic. Anything that gets north of 413 tomorrow, I'll be instantly piling on. But, it's had 2 days to recover, so let's see it go. On the 30-day, so this is or 30-minute, I should say. So S&P on the 30 minutes. And so this is now our 5-day look back and our 5-day low. Today looked like this, and then a failure into the low of the day. So that gives us a double top in here with a slightly lower high. That's actually problematic. You could technically have been short from here. That would not have been crazy to be short there with a risk box, say, to the top of looking at about a $2 risk. And then you'd be looking at returns to these price levels, and then all the way down to the belly of the dragon. So that's not a crazy shot right there. And that's why, to me, as soon as you get a breakdown below here, you can certainly be short intraday on the tighter time frames and be ready to exploit that short-term weakness. There's still a lot of profit in people's hands right here that's got to be preserved. But my spider sense would be is everybody that was long from in here is not going to let this come back down below 404. So to me, the first sign of weakness, this will be the real test area here. And then if that breaks, 404 breaks, I would say look out below. We'll look at the sectors next. So we have the S&P at minus 0.66, a little bit bigger slide today than yesterday. What was better? The Qs in emerging markets were only down 0.3 and 0.48. The Russell was the best performer at 0.1, and it was right at the boundary of winners and losers. Diamonds lagged more, disappointingly there, 1.22, and treasuries gave back 2% to close at 117.50, back underneath key price level of 120. All right, let's see where the weakness was today in the sectors, starting with S&P again at 0.66. So here's the first cluster. Discretionary, VIX, Brazil, tech, and staples, all between minus 0.7 and 0.8. Not much worse than the market. Materials and finance down 1 and 1.1%. Now starting to get some real losses here in real estate, agriculture, lumber, the Aussie dollar, and wheat and precious from 1.3 to 1.9. And then Simon Property Group in Mexico down the most at -3 and -3.15. Individual targets that suffered the most. U.S. Steel off 3.4. It was a good trade today. Cliff Natural Resources was a big mover, 2.63. Devon Energy, a good mover, 1.5. Microsoft and Apple both disappointed here, minus 0.9 and minus 1.1. So worse than the market. Those two were worse than the market, and then worse than tech. So that's not a good sign either. Part of the weakness in the Dow is weakness in those two. So a wide range of weakness today. That's look more like profit taking and defensive play, as traders recognize we are, still in a bear normal. That's what happens. To the upside, there's the S&P at 0.66. Blended commodities only off 0.5. First cluster, energy, the FANGs, lithium batteries, and Bitcoin, 0.14 and 0.23. This is where we get into the gainers now. Blended large cap crypto and oil exploration up 0.5. Oil and Ethereum up 1%. Blockchain 1.14. Biotechs 1.9. And then the winning clusters up here, both of the ARCs, that's innovation and genomics, clean energy, global future, finance, marijuana, making a recovery from the depths at plus 4%. And these guys here between 2.25% and 3%. Individual best wins, Coinbase 7%, Robinhood 2%, Squarespace and PayPal. So this was a day for all those global futures of finance. So if you don't want to try to figure out which one of those is winning, GFOF gives you a chance to get a broad exposure to those. And then meanwhile, Rivian, slightly underperforming Tesla. Tesla was up 1%, good sign, and closed above 900. That's healthy. Rivian was up 0.5, and then Alcoa was the first thing into the plus sign at 0.12. So that was actually the stronger of the metals. Go to the daily reports now. We'll start with the sniper trade of the day. This is U.S. Steel. So you will recall from last night, U.S. Steel was on my radar because it was the best performer of the three metals. Like the other two metals, Alcoa and Cliff, were both below the zero line yesterday, but U.S. Steel had been strong. So it was on my list as a potential mover, and I was hoping it would go to the upside. It did not. So it closed here, gap down to this opening. So there's our gap. So I set up the opening range 3, and then the second bar, it broke down below the low of the first 3-minute bar, so I just get short with a standard risk of 20 cents. The R10 is about 13 cents on this one, but I like rounding it off to 20. So there's my risk box. It rolls down, comes up, and I just take the standard exit at the PSAR for about +1. I stop and reverse. I'm hoping to see it get back to the top of the day and then close the gap. It does not. It just monkeys around. And the time stop in the PSAR just says, well, you had your chance. We're done. Shortly thereafter, we get a COTA 2. So here's our RL10. We get the COTA 2, the PSAR breakout to the upside, standard risk box. Now I'm going to execute off of the belly of the RL10, so I set up the whole risk box, but my execution would be capped right there at about 0.5. But this one works nicely, and then the PSAR takes it out. It sells off briefly and then gives me another COTA 2. PSAR flip. This one gives me about 0.1. And this just felt like its run was done. It didn't look like it was going to be able to get through this. And I considered for a moment this trade, but span of control. And I was content with that sniper trade of the day in U.S. Steel. I still think it'll be happening tomorrow because it was the worst symbol in our stack today. So it's still in play for continuity. We've seen the market health check in the 30-minute. Dashboard number 1. Still bearish normal. You can see that the last 2 days of failure to follow through have caused this market to resume its weakening. The volatility is rolling over. Not a good sign. We want to see that risk Z continue to favor this swing trade. It's still risk on, but it's starting to look a little wobbly at Z +1. That could be like this. That was a good short swing. So we're going to be ready for a move to the downside. We got all our warnings yesterday and the dead cat bounces, so that was timely. 10-day min pains, Walmart, United Health, McDonald's, Diamonds. Max Pains, Pfizer, Caterpillar, Verizon. This was a good warning for me yesterday that Pfizer has been on that list for a while, and it had significant weakness today, and we'll see that in the sniper trade. So it was on my short list. Dow Tactical Summary. Handful of dojis. 3-1 in American Express. 5-1 in Intel. 2.4-1 in Procter. Only one breakdown today in JP Morgan. So kind of a nothing day for signals. Typical of a hesitating at a natural turning point is how I interpret that. ETF 30 tactical. Just a couple dojis. The volatility decline is producing a lot of favorable frog quality numbers. We had a nice breakout in clean energy today, and a tiny little breakdown in Mexico at -1. Little, yeah. No auto framers because we're so close to the 10-day high. That would be why. Daily squeezes, not many. The ones we do have, though, are instructive. United Health, Energy, Goldman, ExxonMobil. There's some potential breakouts to the upside on those, especially if we get another bump in energy like we did today. into the sniper headquarters for sniper setups. We're going to break out the RE play today. Zeros across the board in a very large 5-day range. I mean, very quiet 1-day range. So this is like horrible sell-off with a large 5-day range and a tiny little range day today. So that sets up a recovery breakout. So a nice tiny little doji and ready to break out. Newmont Mining was very instructive today. And this is a quiet Godzilla and just great one today. We'll take a look. I also traded Cincinnati today. It was a large 5-day range, but today's range was very small. Wasn't much traction in it. There were few Godzillas, but now we're starting to see a lot of fireworks. That's not surprising given this run-up of the last 20 days or so. You're starting to see more things firing well on the 30-day and 10-day. Those two are interesting because of how volatile they've been on 5 days, but how quiet on 1 day. So that's a place to start looking. Some fence sitters here. Pfizer was a fence sitter today and made a strong directional move on a large range day. When the 5-day range is very small, but the 1-day range was large and it's voting down, that's the sign of a breakdown, and we're going to be ready for that one tomorrow. On the other hand, CBOE was a good trader today with a normal-sized move and maybe breaking out to the upside. There's our sniper auto framer, still dominated by summer and spring. And then in our tactical symbol set, Mexico jumps out to me with a big move today and really painful 10-day and 150-day. So I'm ready for that thing to start failing more. Microsoft is consolidating at the end of a pretty nice short-term run on a very, very quiet day. So that may be even though it lagged somewhat today, there could be the pause that refreshes. Simon Property Group is worth a look too, with a strong 1-day move. And treasuries are looking very tradable too. This weakness at the end of the day was a bit of a surprise to me. The multi-time frame NDXs. McDonald's, which has been so strong, finally gave up a little bit today. It's still very strong long term and got smacked hard today. Tradable tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of people looking at that as a buy on dip opportunity because they see the strength long term. Where's my Coca-Cola? Yeah, Coca-Cola also had some weak, not as weak as McDonald's, but definitely some weakness. So this is you can see that most everything in the Dow was suffering today, with the exception of, these aren't in the Dow, but I put them in for reference. Squarespace and PayPal. That's your global futures of finance guys right there. Only blockchain in the green today, and some weakness in the ETFs creeping in. Mexico looking especially weak. That second day of failure to follow through, we wanted this to go here, we wanted that to go here. It hasn't yet started this retracement, but that's what it starts looking like. That the nearest neighbor to that, is this one, where there was a bit of a sell-off,
this one where there was a large sell-off, and this one where that second day of weakness led to a big sell-off. So I will be cautious on that one tomorrow and ready to play the bear short. This is still prime time for short-term traders. All right, we'll look at let's look at some sniper trades now. All right, we already saw U.S. Steel. I'll just talk you through one more time. So big gap down, opening range 3. Take the second bar low. Standard risk, standard exit, stop and reverse for the SSC, quick scratch, Kata 2, normal gain, Kata 2 re-entry, starting to diminish. That's probably enough for the day. There was another tradable move or two in there, but it was starting to stall. All right, this is Alcoa. This was the weaker metal from yesterday. This was gap down and very volatile in the opening hour. I waited for it to make a decisive move through the PSAR. That's an SSC. And immediate 1R loss. And then essentially a Kata 2 re-entry. Same risk box. Just re-enter the trade, hold my nose, and say, yep, every so often you get one off me. I was still a little stung on this one, was surprised by that weakness, and wasn't ready to work this. But that's our little RL10 wiggle. This is well above the previous hump, so that could have been a second position there. Which would have paid off. But by this time, I'm just committed to the normal exit. So there's 1 unit of reward. So that's about 1, 2, 3, about 4. So -1 plus 4, we're at about +3 net. That was a potential short, but the previous move had been so strong, wasn't ready. I did take the Kata 2 collapsing dragon though, and let me show you why. So this was the peak. Here's the next a lower high, and here's the PSAR flip. But then I waited for it to break below the RL10. So that's like a collapsing dragon and a Kata 2 to the downside. And I'm looking for it to get to this transition point, which I think is where it went. Yeah, and then failure to fail further. So we take the 1R there, stop and reverse, because now it's a Kata 2. That failure to fail further, now this just looks like an orderly sell-off. So you have that strong and a strong move. So that's a very strong move. Had 2 little pullbacks, but it's still above this level. So that feels like a Kata 2. I set up the regular risk box, but I'm going to execute right there. So I'm really only risking half a risk box. Checker hold. Micro gain. Missed the short. Missed the collapsing dragon twice. I was still hypnotized by that strong move. Plus, we were getting after 3 o'clock, and I was done. Here's the CINF. This was a so here was the close. It rolled over hard after hitting the PSAR. So it moved one risk box off the high of the day, standard risk. By this time, I should be locking in at least that much. This is at Legacy Godzilla, one of the four in the. So content to take a 1R. Took the second entry short. So there's our little RL10 wiggle. This one bounced higher than normal, but so that makes this a collapsing dragon. This is the standard risk box. By the time it drops down to here, my stop should be down to about in here, about a 1 bar high, so that I can lock in no lose plus dinner for 2. Bad form. I let a winning trade go negative, so that's like a D exit. That is a stop and reverse, though. I let Godzilla talk me into staying too long. I'll take responsibility for it. I decided to stay. Bad choice. So that's a SSC now with the standard risk box. And my execution would be here. So I'm only risking this box. I'd like to see this thing get back up to this peak, and then if it can get north of here, this could be great. So this is that tactical trade space in here where I'm trying to get, just trying to turn it into a winning trade. Reasonable exit. I just follow the PSAR on this one, and take it. Was more committed to following the rules that time. So this one is a Kata 2. There's a low, a higher low, a higher low, PSAR flip, standard risk box, execution here, so I'm only risking that piece. Check or hold. It has to get above this RL10 peak to be very interesting. So it's in that tactical space right now. It hasn't proven anything yet. Standard exit. Starting to get choppy, and that was enough. CINF is, again, a financial services company, and it doesn't have, the full power of lots and lots of traders everywhere pushing it around all the time. This just, in retrospect, this looks like one that was a sharp sell-off, a big recovery, and then right back into fair value, but with some residual weakness. So maybe there's another move down tomorrow. It's still a Godzilla, so it wouldn't surprise me to see another weak move like that triggering tomorrow below this price level. So I'll be ready for that. CINF. Oops, already did that one. Here's CBOE. The blue line is the open. I got the TC2000 alert on this one for the that harsh sell-off, and then the OR3 violation. This was a span of control. I already had money committed, so I just noted that was one where I'd like to be short. I'd really like to be short. But instead, I had time now for a SSC. So we have a PSAR flip, standard risk box. I'm looking for it to get back to the peak of the dragon in the RL10. So if it can get north of there, that'll be a very good thing. So this is the tactical trade space. Just trying to get paid in there. No good feelings till it gets above that line. Test, test. Second entry. There's our little RL10 wiggle right where you would expect it, and it kept zooming up. It moved one of these wrist boxes above that, so just held my nose and said go for it. Standard exit on 2 positions. I think I stuck around too long on that one. There was already one hint of weakness here when it sold off. It recovered, but then gave me a doji and started selling off again. So I should have taken it here, but I let it come against me too far. And that's about a 0.5 error. And on 2 positions, 2 times a 0.5 error is minus 1 R worth of error. So let's not do that. Kata 2, you could feel that one developing, couldn't you? Is failure to fail further. Coming under pressure, crosses the PSAR. Quick 1R. Missed the short. And it closed weakly. But what I liked about this one was the orderly move. CBOE is a financial services board of exchange broker, so in bearish markets, lots of trading, it should be okay. I really like the orderly move that it made in the morning, so I'll be ready for this thing to break either way tomorrow. Looking for a continuation play on that one. This is Newmont Mining. This is a Godzilla, has been for a couple days. Gap up. Move straight up, 1 wrist box. Hold my nose and buy it. Thought about a second position. Just took a standard exit, maybe 1 bar early. Yeah, gap and go. It's starting to shape up for a Kata 2. There's the Kata 2. So that's the failure to fail. You know, this was failure to fail, and that makes it a Kata 2, and then this feels like it's going to be okay. It gets interesting if it gets above here. If it violates below here, I would like to get short. Got paid in the standard place. Thought about a Kata 2. It was span of control issue. Thought about a PSAR flip short. And now I'm noticing the a high, a lower high. This was a strong CD signal. Thought hard about that. The distance to here was small. I got hypnotized by that strong move. Finally took the short. Turned out it wasn't too late after all. This was a potential. That's that RL10 wiggle down and fail. That was a potential second one. But a pretty good trade on that one. So that's 1 unit of risk, so that's about 2R. So Newmont Mining was a big mover. That's what a Godzilla intraday looks like. So that's why I pay attention to that signal. Pfizer. This has been a 10-day max pain for a number of days. Nice gap up and then roll over and fail. There's the test. There's the break. It has to get below here to be interesting. Standard risk box. Half an hour loss, stop and reverse with the SSC. Half a gain. Thought about the short, but it felt a little choppy to me, so I decided to wait. It broke below the previous piece, so that whole support level broke, so that feels like a short. And it just ordered second position on the RL10 wiggle. And I just decided to stay with it and watch it like a hawk on 1 minute. That was still good on the 1 minute. So that was a pretty good one. I'll be ready for that one tomorrow. That's what a max pain looks like. So it's 1, 2, 3 on the first position and 2 on the second one. That's like +5. And it closed poorly. So I'll be ready for an SSC rebound or a continuation trade to the downside. Yeah, Eugene points out MPW is in good shape. That's a medical REIT. We'll take a look at that in a minute. His chart in the chat room has, the multi-time frame analysis and some other background information. Has been in some newsletters. It's reporting earnings tomorrow, so it should be a sparkling move. And today was higher volume than normal. And that's exactly the kind of help I'm looking for. So good job on that. This was Constantine, who crushed it again today. He had the following question. How do you filter a sideways chop as soon as possible? Well, one of the things you got to do is you can take a couple. You look for that SQC. You really don't want to trade in an SQC. You want to see it become a Z3P where it's been in the sideways chop so long that now the Z3 lines have compressed and you can get a frog box around between the Z3s. Now that has compressed so much and been abnormally sideways for so long that the breakouts from Z3 are useful. So at some point you take the first 1 or 2 trades in here, and then when it's not breaking out, you just wait to see the Z3P. On the other hand, we'll see on his chart that's posted, you can actually, once you've identified a channel, you can actually start playing from the edge of the channel to the far side of the channel. But if and only if there's enough volume and efficiency for you to be able to trade that move on your time frame. The other thing I say in that room is when you see those transitions from winter to spring and summer to fall, those are giving you sharp indicators that the channel is holding and starting to roll over. So you want to really respect the MACD signals because that gives you the channel boundaries and logical turning points. We'll see that when we open up his chart. All right, yesterday, we'll see his charts here in a second from yesterday, but over trading yesterday did a much better job being more disciplined in here. with good results, much more disciplined on those decisive moves. That's what I like about Devon, is that it's such a vigorous intraday mover. That was not the case yesterday. That we're getting chewed up much longer than we need to. Those first couple in here, that's done. There's your channel. There's your Kata 2. There's your breakout. We should be getting long in here and enjoying that. But after right about here, you can save 2R by not getting any of that crap. And then this one, we should be smashing this. We should be really getting paid more than 1.3. And way over trading and missing the bigger moves from over trading and not trust the PSAR. Look at that PSAR. Trust the PSAR. Much better. And we saw that one. Saw that one. Saw that one. I'm sorry, over posted you. Okay, yeah, so here's MPW from Eugene. So it's in play. And then here's your cautiously climbing the ladder. And it's right at the edge, poised for a breakout. And this was guys that were getting out of the position where they had made their money and tried to push it higher and couldn't, and then they liquidated before the close, and then they got bad fills, and there were no buyers, and that's why it comes back to earth. But that does set up a nice, interesting play tomorrow on about maybe a 20-cent bracket, on either side of that opening tomorrow, and it's reporting earnings. That should be good. And then if it breaks down below 1640, pound that in a strong way. That's right here. That's the PSAR. Really hit that hard there. And then I think here, if it leaves the Z1. Here's Luke with the 5-minute Aussie. Getting paid, good scratch. Getting paid, good scratch. Couple quick losses. Continuing to fire. And, oh yeah, that's right. They all look the same. Trailing stop, I think we took... If only we had said that yesterday. Oh, that's right, we did. Especially, young son, when you got those indicators right there. That's what they're there for. Come on now. And came back in time to get a little taste out of the Kata 2. Trailing stop. Here's Griff. Back on board the Kata 2 Express. This is collapsing dragons in Brazil, which with Mexico has been especially weak. And these are just right by the numbers. That's how you do it. And that's not even counting the Kata 2s, which are Kata 2s galore. That's why EWZ is such a marvelous trader. Arch. I like it. This is where we should be short right there. Got paid. That's good. We could have been long here. We should have scratched if we did. Now, this is feeling a little choppy in here. This short should be here. Then this came all the way down to here. And then that's about where you should be getting out, where you got short. That should be getting paid. I would have tried this one long and lost. That's a good short. And I'm trying to. Where did we exit that one? No, I'm sorry. That was a long that got you. This is where I'd get short, and I think I'd take the loss in here. Yeah, I don't mind this one. That one feels like it was trying to do a kata 2 for you. You got out of there quick. Oh, yeah. Z3 excursion. Hang in there. Same guidance on that tight sideways quiet channel. There just wasn't any movement in here. That will happen. This is Constantine on the gold spot versus the US dollar pair. So we're just noticing 1, 2, 3, 4 lower highs. That's some kata 2 action for you there. Lower lows. So when this breaks, smash. Could be a second short here on that RL10 wiggle. But still, we'll take 4.4 and a nice tight wrist box. You know, squeezing the setup for all it's worth. That was good work. And he's using the higher time frames to help him see those key turning points. That's where that nice short was in here. So last week's higher high, and it broke, and now it's breaking again. This could easily break through all this and get back into here and here. So there's two strong moves that are just begging. And when that moves, boy, it moves fast. So he's got to be ready for quick moves and ready to go. This was the zoom in on that channel trade where we were talking about that. If you have efficiency in here, you might be able to trade from the low end. When the channel sells off and starts to work, you went winter to spring. So this was spring, and here's the break into summer. We can actually make that trade, and then this would be money management to get out here. So yeah, it's possible to trade inside a channel like that, but you got to determine, what your cost of trading is, and then look for those exaggerated turning points. Those are giving you insights into tradable moments. But yeah, you could end up trading that whole thing and get zero, but that's fine. You don't know. You have no idea ahead of time that that's not going to go, or that that's not going to go. So you actually got to take them. If it doesn't work, you got to, buy your ticket and check your score. Yeah, we saw that one. Finally, Paul with some nice work here. Devon Energy. Yeah. This is the trade-off between vigorous moves and calmness of mind. Maybe if you feel like you need to get in there, try it at 1/5 of your normal size, because that's sort of that's where we want to be. Still, I like the kata 2 gets paid, and then the SSC gets paid, doesn't fail further, gets a quick scratch. And now on this one where it doesn't even penetrate the dragon into the PSR, you can get long again right here, and then you get all of this. That failure to fail is information, and you've already had 2 legs up. You can get long right there, and this one would have been very tempting right here, but you were not in, obviously. But still, 1.7, we'll take it. And last one on Cliff. Again, that opening. Yeah, this is high adventure in here. But I like that you notice this consolidation and then a breakdown, so you got it. Excellent exit. I like the second shot, quick scratch, and then ready to nail this thing. There's a kata 2, there's a kata 2, there's a kata 2. But that's nice all the way. All right, good work, fellas. We'll get this published and posted. And
We shall see you tomorrow.